is Christine Randewa, and for my quality management project, I present to you how to do a Pareto chart. In this video, the learning objectives are to understand what is a Pareto chart, to prepare your data for the Pareto chart, and to follow a simple step-by-step procedure to drawing the Pareto chart. Firstly, we will begin with what is a Pareto chart. The Pareto chart is named after an Italian economist, Alfredo Pareto, who claimed that a large percentage of wealth was owned by a relatively small percentage of population in Italy. The purpose of the Pareto chart is to highlight the most important factors among a typically large set of factors. It is one of the 7 basic tools of quality, and in quality control, it often represents the most frequent reasons for customer complaints and common sources of defects. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, states that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects comes from 20% of the causes. This 80% of factors are also known as the vital few, which are the main reasons or the most regular cause for a complaint or defect. You will be able to grasp a clear idea of how this applies once you understand the Pareto chart. So you may be wondering, what does a Pareto chart look like? Well, here's a typical example of a Pareto chart showing rejected products of a company for a 1-month period. As you can see, this chart is properly labeled with the left axis, or the left vertical axis, or the y-axis representing the frequency or the count of the reason for the rejected product, which is here. And on our x-axis, which is down here, showing the individual values of the reasons, which are depicted in descending order by bars. It is arranged in descending order, which is largest to smallest, to show which are the major problems that should be prioritized to be solved first. Finally, on the right vertical axis, illustrates the cumulative percentage of the total number of occurrences. Cumulative percentage is basically the count of a problem divided by the total number of problems multiplied by 100. So to even further understand this, I will help you to work on it an example. Have you ever been to a restaurant and the food isn't as good as you expected? Or the items on the menu are way too overpriced? What about the service? Did you ever receive bad service while dining? Here's an example of customer complaints received by a popular restaurant over a 1-month period. We have the item number, the complaint, and the frequency. Our frequency is basically how many times these complaints were lodged. So firstly, we must draw out our template or table in descending order with regards to the complaint and the frequency, as well as the item number. What I mean is, our largest complaint or largest frequency was 200. Therefore, overpriced, or item number 4, will be our first item on the table. So wait time came in second with 109 complaints. Tasteless food came in at third with 65 complaints, and we went down until we finished with each item. Then we found our cumulative frequency. After we have summed the total amount of complaints, we move on to find cumulative frequency, which is basically our frequency plus our first frequency plus our second frequency. So 200 plus 109 gives us 309. 309 plus 65 gives us 374. 374 plus 45 gives us how much? You calculate and see if your answer matches my answer. Then we move on to find our percentage cumulative frequency, which is basically our cumulative frequency divided by our total frequency multiplied by 100. So 200 plus 200 divided by 431 multiplied by 100 gives us 46. 309 divided by 431 multiplied by 100 gives us 72. And you work until you finish each item. Your finished table should look like this. So now you can check and see if you've calculated the correct cumulative frequency and percentage cumulative frequency. Now we can start plotting our charts. Firstly, by drawing templates, which should look like this. Be sure to label the chart and all three axes properly. So you must give it a title as well as label each axis. Then we can plot the bars, which would look like this. This is the first item, to show the count or the frequency number. Right, so for overpriced food, which had a frequency of 200, we plotted it here against the frequency axis. When you finish, all should look like this with each item. Now we can plot dots. So for each complaint, using the percentage cumulative values on the right vertical axis, we plotted our dots. So for complaint number 4, overpriced food, our cumulative percentage was 46%. So 46% is somewhere around here, and we plot it on our overpriced bar chart. And we did the same for each item. Wait time was 72%. 72% should be here. We plot it against our bar. And all look like this. Now we can draw a curve to connect the dots, and at the 80% cumulative frequency mark, which is here, draw a line across to the curve and down to the x-axis. Here we can identify category A, items to the left of that line. So items in category A are the major problems or complaints that needs to be resolved. In this case, roughly 2 major complaints should be prioritized first, since they contributed to 72% of all complaints. So these 2 complaints are overpriced items and wait time. Overpriced items and wait time contributed to 72% of all the problems, as you can see here. This is what your Pareto chart would look like on graph paper. But we are not finished yet. Now we must try to come up with solutions to solve the problem. So we can try a different pricing strategy to lower the prices of items, or we can revise the menu to accommodate cheaper items. Sorry, I have it mixed up here, but basically the same thing. revise the menu to accommodate cheaper items, or try a different pricing strategy to lower the price of some items. We can even try to get customers to make reservations to avoid long wait time. So once they make these reservations, we book it as an appointment, and that way they don't have a long wait. Or we can even expand the building if possible. So these are just some ideas to solving the problem. Maybe you can come up with more. But I do hope that this video was helpful and you learned something from it at the end. And I thank you for viewing it.